Hello everybody, my name is Veladam01 and welcome back to City Skylines East of the Curtain, my post-Soviet former Eastern Bloc inspired city building series, and in this episode I am going to build some Soviet style housing estate with a lot of these commie blocks, the prefab housing you can see in every Central or Eastern European city. Originally this episode was meant to be a live play instead of the time-lapse, but when I tried to record the live play, I had so many issues that I just chose to be a time-lapse instead of the live play. And by the way, I also set up a Twitter account for myself, so if you want to follow what I am doing between the episodes, or just want to see some screenshots of the city, or just want to get in touch with me, just follow the account on Twitter. And also you can write me a DM, or if there is a demand, I will set up a public Discord server for myself if you write it in the comments. So what I am going to do in this episode is I am just going to build two types of these Soviet estates. One is the older style where they were just experimenting with prefab housing and they just mixed with the old ones, these kind of 50s styles. And the second, what I am building right now, is a much kind of newer style where the prefab housing technology was already a technology and not just a experimental thing. As you can see, I started this episode with building the newer style of housing estate, and for this purpose I used Meister Monis's Plattenbau assets, which I think they are actually coming from East Germany. They are East German assets, but they kinda look similar to the ones which are present in my country. So I just use them, and this area that I'm building on the screen right now is actually inspired by the one which is located in Haller utca near Nagyvárad tér in Budapest. And the concept behind this area was kinda similar to what the Soviets did when they built this kind of enclosed cities, that the micro-district concept, that every service that the citizens might need, like shops and education and medical service, just every service the citizens might actually need, should be located in their own district in order to make these districts more efficient and also kinda self-sustainable. For example, the citizens don't have to travel into other districts to get a special kind of service or specific service, because everything is just present locally. So how I built this district is I just placed down some services between the commie blocks, for example a school and a small Spar supermarket that you can see on the screen right now. And by the way, this Spar is looking kinda similar to the one which is located in Örmező in Budapest, or similar to another one which is located in Eteleút, also in Budapest. And I also built a small handmade custom built park with a playground which you will see later in this time lapse. And also I plopped down a lot of parking space all around the place. But I think I have just talked enough. I will just go out for a bit and I will just let you enjoy the time lapse, and I will be right back when another section starts. here is the small little park between the commie blocks which I told you about before in the time-lapse. As you can see, it was only made using some pedestrian networks crossing each other in the middle of the park, and one playground asset which is made by Rick, and it was actually made for his English or British camping asset packs, but it is so universal that it does even fit between the commie blocks. Then I also put down this kind of park bench parks. Notice that these benches I put down are actually parks, so dissidents will actually visit them and sit on them, which won't be a feature if they were just props instead. And I also played around with the new feature of the intersection marking tool, where you can just add props and trees into your networks using intersection marking tool, just if they were road lines. And I don't know if they actually count to the prop count or the tree count, but they just make the detailing so much easier, because you can just make them, and once they are made you can just copy and paste them to other networks with some kind of limitation. But if you once made the design, you can just copy it and paste it to another network, just like you are seeing on the screen right now. So it just makes the detailing so much faster and easier than it was before. Later I also added some detailing trees and some landscaping grass to the park, so the citizens can just actually visit the park and just sit under the shadow of the trees, so they won't get sunburn when they are visiting the park and just sitting on the benches. After I finished building and decorating the housing estate, I also added some pedestrian connections to it, and I also built a car overpass above the main road that is going outside of the housing estate. And this is because it is a preparation for a future transit project which will take place in this area. But what it is exactly, I don't want to spoil it for you right now at the moment. But if you are familiar with the Pesterzsébet area, you might have a clue what I am going to do here in the future. And if you have a clue, just send them in the comments and make a tip what I will do here. And let's see who will have the right answer for it. So, here is the second housing estate that I'm going to build in today's episode. You will immediately notice that this housing estate would look much older than the previous one, the other one which I built previously in this episode. This is because it is actually older than the other one, because it was constructed before that one. And it would also contain less of this kind of prefab housing tenements, because maybe this was just only an experimental housing estate by the Soviets to test out different house building technologies, and the prefab tenement technology was still just a experimental technology. Or this housing estate was there even before the Soviets arrived or the Socialist Party gained the rule, the power, and they just built some kind of bigger tenements into this empty area in the middle of this housing estate, which is actually a mixture of two existing real-life one housing estate from Budapest. One is from Mezőkövesd utca and the surrounding area on Albertfalva, while the other is called Gubac, next to the bridge, the overpass to Chapel above the Danube branch. To be honest, I don't know much about the backstory of these two housing estates. I don't know if they were even before the communism, or they just were constructed when the communism was in Hungary. But if you look at them on Google Maps or Street View, you might find the houses kinda similar to the houses what I built in the game. Obviously not the big prefab houses, but the smaller ones. Also, they are not the same, as I think, because these smaller houses that I build are actually Stalin era buildings from the Soviet Union, made by Targa on the Steam workshop. At first, I don't think that these houses are Stalin era building, and the second, I think these houses were actually never built in Hungary. I think they were only built in Soviet Union, and they are only present in countries which were actually part of the Soviet Union and not just an Eastern Bloc country. Also, it would be nice if someone could make these houses as an asset for the workshop, especially if they are in modular form. So if an asset creator is watching this video, please contact me as soon as possible so I can send you the references to the buildings. But anyway, what I wanted to achieve here is some kind of a worker housing estate, house for the workers. And to be honest, what I think that this housing estate looks like more like the Mezőkövesd utca than the Gubac housing estate. And to finish this episode, I also built a KFC restaurant to show that this country is now only a former socialist or communist country, that the communism is now only just the past, and it has now become a standard European country where only the architecture remembers the socialist era. I built a KFC because I think it is kind of popular in former Eastern Bloc countries, or at least in my country, where you can find it in every important city around. And it is actually better than the other fast food chains, or it was used to be better, especially with the refillable drinks, but also was more cheaper, more expensive than them. I'm not sure about other countries, but what I have seen in Czech Republic is kind of the same than here, that you can find a KFC even in a highway rest place if you are lucky enough. And if I remember correctly, this was also the situation when I was traveling in Poland. But if I am not right, please just correct me in the comment section. Anyway, from this moment, the citizens can now see Colonel Sanders smiling at them from the billboard, inviting them to eat at his restaurant. So just like in the previous episodes, here are some ending cinematics of what has been built in this episode. I hope I will see you in the next one too, where I am either gonna make some public transportation for the city, or I am just going to build a big shopping area on the outskirts. I was Veladam01, thanks for watching, see you later, goodbye.